In this video, I'll be taking you guys along with me on my journey to London and Paris. So get ready for some slightly crazy stories and a little bit of an immersion break. Let's go! The best part about Christmas in London is definitely the Christmas lights. My favorites had to be on Regent Street and Covent Garden. But the Christmas cheer was basically everywhere, from little bits of music on the street to even the delicious food offered at the Christmas markets. The beginning part of the trip actually involved just a lot of sightseeing, which led to some interesting encounters, such as me seeing the Buckingham Palace for the first time, and even these incredibly scary motorcyclists that were 100% not being safe. But even through it all, there were a lot of gorgeous sunsets and a heck ton of food, which I will get to next. If there is one thing that you must take away from this video, it is that you must visit Knoops. Or it might be pronounced Snoops. I'm actually not too sure. Anyways, Knoops is hands down the best hot chocolate. Finally arrived! The best part about it is that you can choose the strength of the hot chocolate. Now, of course, as a dark chocolate lover, I get the 96%, or I think in this case I got 93% because they didn't have the strongest one available. Anyways, it was absolutely amazing. My brain was able to ascend. It is a must try whenever you go to London. Now, of course, I did not drink hot chocolate during the entirety of the trip, although during an alternate universe, that could have very likely have been possible. Some other food recommendations included Eat Tokyo, which had some amazing unagi bowls, and Ben's Cookies, and even this really strange ramen place called Bone Daddies. And I can't even begin to tell you how sus the menu was. But the food was very delicious, so definitely go try it out. Now, one place that I wish that I got a chance to try more was this cafe called Olenstein. It seemed to me like Starbucks in the US, except the pastries are 1,000 times better. I was so full of hot chocolate and other junk food from the trip, but if I were to go back again, I would definitely want to try their avocado toast. One of the highlights of the trip was the Formula 1 arcade. This was super cool because you got to actually try these racing simulators and pretend to drive against Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, and all these other amazing F1 drivers. Now, I was on the easiest mode, which showed you this path that you could just travel along. The highlight of the F1 driving was when I accidentally flipped the car and then cut across the grass to make it into P1. This whole arcade is themed like F1, so there were F1 drinks, but there were also these mini games where you can test your reaction skills. My personal magnum opus of the trip was Piccadilly Circus. This included visiting the Waterstones bookstore, which was this incredibly huge bookstore with 5 or 7 floors of books. I could probably spend hours and hours of time in there. Of course, I mostly hung out around the astrophysics and physics section, but I didn't actually get any books. But maybe next time, or if any of you guys have any book recommendations, I'll check it out. And then there was the afternoon tea experience. You were served your own personal thing of tea, and also these little pastries that would go alongside it. Now, some of these pastries were a little surprising, but most of them were very delicious and filling. So if you ever get a chance to visit Fortnum & Mason, this is definitely a must try. And be sure to book it in advance. Now it was time to take the Eurostar en route to Paris. Or Paris. Now the first thing on the itinerary was not the Eiffel Tower, was not the Champs-Élysées, or any other tourist location, but the Jellycat Patisserie in La Galerie Lafayette. And after I grabbed a quick baguette plushie, I then went to go stuff my face full of macarons. Now, I was just joking. The actual highlight of the trip was going on the top of the Eiffel Tower, where you could see the entire city. Just look at that view! Ah! It is just so magical. Oh my god. And of course, rounding out the day with an incredibly epic dinner in view of the Eiffel Tower. The next day's mission was to go to the Louvre. Now, this was incredibly intense. The Louvre is humongous, and I think that it's likely that an art student could spend months or even years studying every piece of art that's there. So in the span of one day, I think I walked around 20,000 steps. But there were so many things to see, like the classic Mona Lisa, and my favorite statue, the Winged Victory, but also the Egyptian exhibit, and these crown jewels, and don't even forget the ceiling, which was a work of art in and of itself. The next part of the trip was to enjoy this nice boat ride down the Seine. But if I have to be honest, I was really exhausted, so I actually took a quick nap on the boat. But before that, I did take some amazing videos of the sunset over Paris and the Eiffel Tower, which was a sight to remember forever. Now, after all of that walking, I was craving one thing: the cheese wheel. I had seen this in the Christmas markets in London, and I finally got a chance to try it here, and it did not disappoint. That was the most epic cheese wheel of all time. And before I knew it, it was the last day in Paris. The trip wasn't that long, which meant that I wanted to make the most out of this last day. The first thing on the list was visiting the Musée d'Orsay. And this absolutely blew my mind. There were so many incredible pieces of art, but my favorite has to be this one, Le Chat Blanc by Pierre Bonnard. This dude was truly ahead of his time. This has got to be my favorite painting of all time. It is just so smug, so beautiful. Anyways, I'm obsessed with this cat now. I think I'll actually make it my phone background. I love this cat. I then headed to the famous Café des Fleurs for my final meal in Paris. Now, the food did not disappoint. Apparently, a lot of writers and famous artists, scientists, etc. have actually visited this cafe. I got their croque monsieur, which was incredibly delicious. And of course, I wanted to try a creme brulee before I left, so I grabbed one of those as well. Around this time, I was thinking that the trip was coming to a close. But then, turns out that just a few days before my visit, Notre-Dame had just reopened to the public. I went thinking that the lines would be too long to actually step inside, but they were actually moving really quickly, and before I knew it, I was inside the Notre-Dame, which was insane considering that it's been under construction for so many years. This was probably the best way to end the trip, and it was incredibly, incredibly beautiful. What an incredible feat of humanity to put this kind of cathedral together. And that was the end of Z's trip to London and Paris. Or I guess since I've been to London, should I call myself Zed now? What do you guys think? Anywho, that was the end of this video. I know this type of immersion break content is new for my channel, but if you did enjoy it, please do let me know. And I hope to see you guys in the next one, perhaps in future travels.